This time it's the turn of Microsoft 365 Groups. What's new and cool? Stay tuned. Greetings everybody, welcome back to the channel. Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP. So nice to see you, especially if this is your first visit here. On this week's episode, I thought I'd take a look at what's new and cool in Microsoft 365. There's been a lot of changes recently, and I thought, it's a good excuse to bring you guys up to date with what's new. Now, if you've not subscribed to the channel, we'd love you to hit that subscribe button. Come on board with us. Learn something new and exciting every week. And of course, if you like the video, go ahead, bump the like button up there. It does make a difference to my channel. And if you've got questions, comments about this, or in fact, any of my content, then please just get that down below and I'll do my best to answer your questions. All right, so without any more jibber jabber, I think it's about time we jump in with some demos on Microsoft Groups. Let's check it out. Okay, so I'm going to kick off here in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to come down here. I'm going to go into Settings and into Organizational Settings. I'm going to scroll right down here and I'm going to come in here to Microsoft 365 Groups. So one of the kind of newish features that has kind of confused a few people is something called Ownerless Groups. So when you go ahead and you create a Microsoft 365 group, it's quite often that you maybe forget to put an owner in. And owners are really powerful kind of admin roles, really. They can invite guests and they can help manage the group and so on. So one of the things that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go ahead and configure the policy here. And you can specify it, specify who can receive membership notifications. So are you going to allow all active members, only certain active members, or block active members? So you can do an allow or a block list there. You can specify the number of active members to notify. So again, for the purpose of this, I'm going to just choose up to 5. Please note you've got a little help option here. Again, you can see it can actually have up to 90 members notified, but I do think that's maybe a little too much actually. You can also notify the most active members, and you can specify how long to notify them for. So I'm going to say I'm going to do that for just a couple of weeks here. I can also, who can the group email address here? So where is the email coming from? So you can choose the name of a sender. For the purpose of this demo, I've got one pre-set up here. So first of all, you get a little template message here, so you can see the name, the subject, and you also get a little message. Please note that the high percent username, or dollar username, I should say, dollar display name. This is great because now you know that you can use that in a template, and you can see that this is what the user would technically get. And so the user would basically said, hey, would you like to be a group owner, yes or no? So they get a little polled message there. You can also get a little tooltip here, and if you've got any guidance, you can put the policy guidelines URL in there as well. So I'm going to click next, and do you want to target all groups or just specific groups? So again, I can come in here, I can choose a specific group or just target that all groups if I want to. So that's how we can deal with ownerless groups in Microsoft 365. Now, one of the features that I really do love in Microsoft 365, and it's been out for a little while now, if you go into Teams and Groups in the Admin Center, I'm going to scroll down here and you can see that I've got a group here called Oslo HQ. I happen to be in Oslo this week. And one of the things that Microsoft have been doing and continue to do, and actually this is going to continue in the next few weeks and months, they are enhancing the properties of teams and groups. Now, as we know, this was started life out as a Microsoft 365 group, and I've gone ahead and updated this to become a Microsoft team. And as you know, if I click into settings here, you can see that it's a team because it's all been integrated. Now, of course, when you create a group in Microsoft 365, it asks you, hey, do you want to create a team? If you don't, then that's fine. Just untick that checkbox. But just to let you know that when you do click that checkbox for it to become a team, it's an irreversible action. So there's no going back here. So what can we see? Well, first up here, you can see that it's a Microsoft 365 group. It's a team. I can go ahead. I can view the email in here. So this will take me to my inbox. This will take me to my Teams in Microsoft Teams. This will show me the SharePoint team site that I've gone ahead and created. And if you wanted to delete it, of course, you can do that here as well. I get some basic information, email address. Do remember, however, you can change any of the aliases, and you can also have multiple aliases and you can also have multiple aliases for a Microsoft 365 group and team as well. So clicking on membership. Now, because this is a Microsoft team, you do get a number of changes here. So of course, we have our owners here. And again, I've just gone ahead and assigned myself as an owner, but you're quite within your right. You can have up to 90 owners within a team if you want to. I can also view my members. So in this case, I want to go ahead and add some members into my team. So again, you can just start typing the name of the member. So I'm going to bring in Adele, Alex here as well. And I'm also going to bring in Alan. And you can see I've got my members here as well. And I can remove them if I want to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and add these guys in. All right, so the members have been assigned. I now click on the back button. The other thing that you can also do here as well is you can also bring in some visitors as well. So, you might have guests, or you might want to invite guests or some customers or suppliers or something like that. So again, you can go ahead and you can add those in here. Now, this tab says about membership and permissions. If you're not quite sure what to do and how they work, then again, these take you through to docs.microsoft.com, and they really do explain it really well. The next tab along is channels. Now, because this is a Microsoft team, you can see that we have got channels here. And because it's a team, it's really nice to see the two platforms, kind of teams and groups, coming together here. So you can see at the moment, I've got 3 channels. So when you create a team, by default, every team, of course, has the general channel, but you can go ahead and you can add in additional channels. And when you add the channels in, you can choose whether they're private or whether they're public. Now, do remember with private channels, as with private groups, you cannot access them, but you can request access to them as well. So I can go in, I can view the channel itself. So again, I can click into that. It gives me some details on the channel name. I can edit that if I want to. I can also go in and view the URL, and I can also change the description here as well. Likewise, you can also view the membership of that particular channel. Particularly useful if it's a manager or something like that. So the nice thing is here, you're not dancing around different portals, which makes this really cool. And you can also create and delete channels from here as well. Again, it's all about saving time. Now, if you go in and create a channel here, so again, I can create a channel in here. I could call it accounts. I could put in a little description. I could click next. Now, you'll notice one thing that you can't do at the moment. You can't create shared channels. So the channel can either be standard, so everybody can see the channel, anybody can access it, or it can be private. And again, if I say, hey, I want it to be private, who is going to be the owner? Again, in this case, I'm just going to add the CDX owner. And, you know, I've got Adele, who's a user in here as well. So I'm going to let Adele be the owner of this particular channel. So I'm going to go ahead, click on next, and again, I get a nice review as well. Okay, so that channel was created. You can now see I've got the 4 channels here. Now the next checkbox along, or the next option along, is my settings. Now, again, these are off by default. So when you go ahead and you create the channel, these options are switched off. So let people outside your organization email the team. So again, if you're using guests, if you've got external collaborators within your organization, then again, do you want them to be able to email the team? Do you want copies of emails to be sent to different members? You might not want the address to appear in the global address list, so you don't want it to appear in Outlook. It's also quite interesting, don't you think? If you're an old-timer like me, we know this is the global address list in kind of traditional Exchange. Notice the softer language that Microsoft are using here. So rather than using technical words like the global address list, it's just, hey, you don't want it to appear in Outlook anymore. That's great. Again, I can change the privacy of the group if I want to. And again, you can also save you having to go into the SharePoint Admin Center. Look at this. They've integrated this even more. So now I can say, okay, external file sharing. Now, in SharePoint, I've gone ahead and configured this. So I don't want anonymous file sharing. And that's the default for the tenant. But in here, you can go in and you can say, you know, I want new and external guests. I want just only existing guests. So these are guests that only exist in Azure Active Directory. So that means that you can't add new ones in. Or you might decide, hey, you know, this particular team or group is only for users within the organization. And this is my absolute favorite. I spoke about this previously. Sensitivity labels. Okay, this used to be a PowerShell option that you needed to switch on. Okay, and so you could always do sensitivity labels on items such as documents and emails, but you could never do it on kind of channels and also groups and so on. One thing that's missing though, again, you need to set that here. It's not as granular as I would like, but it's getting much, much better. All right. Now, again, I can go ahead. I can say, hey, I want to assign the Sterling Confidential label to this team or group, and everything will be labeled confidential. In terms of channels, do you want owners to be able to edit and manage the existing channels? Do you want them to be able to edit private channels or not? Again, that's an admin option and you can choose that. Team owners can delete channels, so you may not want that. You may want to remove that. What about conversations? So allow members to edit their sent messages or delete their messages. So again, you might not want that. So, you know, once it's typed in, it's a bit like WhatsApp versus Facebook, I suppose. All right. So once you're happy with that, again, we now go and save those changes. So those are the new and cool updated properties in Microsoft Groups. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about is privileged access groups in Microsoft Azure and Microsoft 365. Privileged access groups, by the way, are perfect for assigned membership, and they need to be Microsoft 365 groups or security groups. They cannot be dynamic groups, and they cannot be used for groups that sync from an on-premises environment. So just be aware of that. So one of the first things that you need to do is you need to come into group settings in Microsoft Entra, go into privileged access groups. And one of the things that you need to do is you need to identify the groups that you want to use. Now I've gone ahead and I've actually added in my groups here. And if you choose to discover groups, you want them to allow to become a privileged access group. So the analogy for privileged access groups is kind of similar to PIM, Privileged Identity Management. Privileged Identity Management allows me to grant you a temporary administrator role in order to perform a task for a certain amount of time. So in other words, I'm giving you just enough administration in just enough time. So with privileged access groups, the idea here is that if you're a group owner, then traditionally you would be a permanent group owner. However, that may not be the case, and that's maybe for a project reason or a customer reason. I don't want you to be a permanent owner. I want you to be a temporary owner. And this is the idea behind privileged access groups. So first of all, one of the things I need to do is I need to be able to discover groups. So any groups in here, you can see the security groups, as long as they are either Microsoft 365 groups or they're not dynamic groups. So once you've selected the group, you simply add that group in. So I've gone ahead now and I've added in this Ask HR group. So what I'll now do is I simply now go into the group itself, and you can see the interface kind of looks a little bit like PIM, Privileged Identity Management. So first up then, I can see that I've got some active assignments here, and at the moment I haven't assigned anybody any particular roles to this particular group. So what I can do is I can say, okay, I want to first of all assign some members to this. So I can go ahead and I can assign a member. Now what I'm going to do is I can say, hey, do I want this person to be a member of the group? So you can use this for temporary assignments for group members as well as group owners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a user here. So I'm going to bring in Adele, and I want Adele to be an owner of this particular group. So you can see Adele has been selected. I can go into the settings of Adele, and you can choose, are you going to make her permanent? So is she a permanent, or is she going to be eligible? And it's a little bit like me lending you my car. I'm handing you my keys to look after my car. You may not need to drive the car. You may not need to use it. But the fact is that you have the rights to do so. So that's the analogy here. And you can see I've gone ahead and I've set those up, and I'm going to go ahead and assign that permission. All right, so you can see I've gone ahead and assigned that assignment here. So if I go in here, you can now see what I've done is Adele has got this temporary access here. Now, again, before, these are all my members and owners that I've already configured, but you can see now I'm adding in Adele, but she's only temporary assigned. Now, again, just like privileged identity management, again, you can choose to configure those settings. So you've got the kind of the default settings here. So I can choose the owner settings. I can edit those settings, and I can say, hey, you know, how long do I want her to have access for? So again, you can say, you know, I actually want it to be 12 hours. So within that 2-week period, she can go in, she can use that role for up to 12 hours. On activation, does she require multi-factor authentication? Does she require to put in a justification, a reason for it? Are you going to use a ticketing system? Does she need an approver? So again, you have these options. How long do you want the assignment to be there for? So again, the default is a year here. I could just say, you know, maybe 3 months. I want to do it for 3 months. And again, do you want to allow permanent active assignment? And again, you can restrict that as well. When she activates the assignment or goes into the role as an owner, she needs to maybe put a justification in. Do you want to notify anybody? So when that user joins, or that member joins, or the owner gets access, do you want to update anyone? Again, I'm just going to go ahead now and update those settings. So privileged access groups, really nice. You can now control membership either by member or owners and grant temporary access to users or owners for this. I think this is awesome. And especially remember, groups are teams. So when this filters down to a Microsoft team, just think how powerful this feature is going to be. So there you have it, Microsoft 365 Groups, what's new and cool. I really hope you enjoyed that. Remember, if you did, bump the like button up there. It does make a difference. And if you've not subscribed, hey, well, come on board. Bump that subscribe button, ring the bell, and you'll be notified of any new postings that I've got on my channel. And questions, comments, of course, as ever, get those down below there. I love to read those. All right, that's it for this time around. I'll see you soon. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.